Joshua versus Usyk fight week is officially underway. And while Joshua's attention is on the former undisputed cruiserweight champion Alexander Usyk, AJ versus Fury is still a heavily discussed topic. But Fury is in a mega fight of his own against Deontay Wilder on October 9th. Both Brits must come out on top to keep the hopes of that showdown alive. When asked about Fury, Joshua responded with the following to the Daily Mail. "I'll promise before the end of my career I have done everything in my power to fight Tyson Fury. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, that was a superstar fight. Me and Fury is streets. We'll get it on in Britain. This is a UK fight." Well, first of all, this is kind of different than what Tyson Fury said. Tyson Fury said that fight is going to be, in the Middle East, where they're offering a whole bunch of money. What was that? Saudi Arabia, actually. That's where it was supposed to be. So him saying Britain, now, yes, that makes sense to me, but I don't know if Saudi Arabia is offering more money than you can get in the UK. Who knows? But we'll see. But as far as this right here, who do you think is more likely to, mess up these plans? Is it Usyk or is it Deontay Wilder?
Barack, that's a great question. First off, to address the first thing that you said, money talks. That fight is going wherever the most money is, point blank, period. No disrespect to the Brits. The ones with money will, and if they're able to travel, they'll get to Saudi Arabia.
But doesn't that seem disrespectful though? Like,
no,
you
it's
have
not
an opportunity to have
disrespectful,
an undisputed champion and they're both British, and you can have it on your soil.
Yeah, that sounds good. It would be great to be at Wembley. But if you're going to get an extra $50 million on top of in the pot, right, you're going to end up in Saudi Arabia. But that's neither here nor there, because both of those guys have two major tests in front of them. And actually, that's a very difficult question, Barack, because I lean towards Fury. Deontay Wilder being able to upset the apple cart. And then sometimes I lean towards Usyk being able to accept the apple cart. Because both of these guys have a legitimate shot at winning these fights. When you look at Wilder, you talk about one of the hardest hitting heavyweights in history, right? That's not said because people just like to say it, because the guy has one punch knockout power and he's already hurt Fury. We saw it one time. Now, you flip over to the other fight over here in the UK, you talk about Olympic gold medalists. Yes, AJ was an Olympic gold medalist as well, but Usyk is a very slick, skilled, decorated amateur. He did not start fighting as late as AJ did. He's a southpaw. He has so many tricks in his bag. And yes, he starts slow, but he ends strong. So for those that think that AJ is just gonna walk through Usyk, they got another thing coming. So I can't answer that question. I am picking AJ to beat Usyk, and I'll make the prediction later on in the week. And I'm actually going towards Wilder upsetting the apple cart. I haven't made that decision just yet. Maybe by fight week in Vegas, I'll change my mind. But the question is, if Wilder wins, can we make AJ and Wilder? And we may talk to Wilder later on in the week, and I'm going to ask him myself.
You said we may talk to Wilder?
Sorry, Joshua.
Wilder ain't coming on his own, and that's my boy. Listen, who does this though? Who says, yeah, I think Usyk is gonna lose. I think Joshua's gonna beat Usyk, but I'm not making my prediction now. I'm gonna make it later. Who does that but you? I don't know. Now, here's what I say. I say it would have to be Wilder has the bigger chance of messing up those plans, because I feel like, fighters do different things in preparation according to the level of threat, right? A lot of fighters say, I treat every fight the same, and I train 100% every single fight. I take every fight seriously. Now, some fighters, that might even be true. But in reality, the reality is the bigger the fight, the more you're going to do in preparation. I think that a smart fighter should always prepare 100% physically, but I think there's certain fights that you need more mental preparation for. Example of that is Fury. I don't think he needed Freddie Roach in his corner or Sugar Hill when he fought Tom Schwartz. Another example is Caleb Plant. I'm sure he didn't go look for Andre Ward for some advice before he fought Mike Lee. And I'm saying this to say that people's prediction about Usyk losing to Joshua is based off him fighting Chisora and having a pretty much tough fight with Chisora. Now, that's a great prediction and it makes sense. But what I think is that because of the level of threat in Joshua, we're going to see a better Usyk. We're going to at least see an Usyk who prepared better. So I can't put 100% of my prediction based on that, even though, yes, that's good to say. He struggled with Chisora. How can he beat Joshua? But always when there's a bigger level of threat, fighters prepare differently.
As the old saying goes, opinions are like, the rest. This is what makes top 10 lists great. It's all subjective. The latest list from Clarissa Shields, who shared her thoughts on who are the best fighters in the world today. Here they are. All right, Barack, let's get into this list, man. She has Tyson Fury at number 10, then AJ at number 9, Teofimo number 8, then Gervonta Davis. Then after that, Shakur Stevenson. She has herself at number 5, and number 4, Jamel Charlo, number 3, Errol Spence Jr., number 2, Canelo, and number 1, Crawford. Barack, I don't agree with this list. And maybe a few names there. And maybe it just has to be moved around a little bit. But it's subjective. I mentioned it earlier. It's okay. I respect her list. This is great for debating, to create arguments. I love seeing these lists on social media. Do you agree with this list?
No, I don't agree with the list. I appreciate her list. I even appreciate her name being on it, because if we're going to talk about skill, dominance, and all of that, then yeah, but it's kind of hard to put men with women, because if that's the case, shoot, Amanda Serrano need to be on this list.
Yep.
And very high on this list too, so I don't want to go there. Hey, if we want to join them together, let's join them together, fine. She belongs on the list then. But I think she forgot a couple of people. She forgot Inoue. You know what I'm saying? Inoue way up top on that list. But somebody did point that out to her on Twitter, and she says, oh, you know what? Everybody's been saying that. I got to check him out. So not everybody's aware of Inoue, even though he's a monster. He's a beast. He's one of the best fighters I've ever seen. And she also forgot Lomachenko. Lomachenko, yeah, he lost to Teofimo, but he's still a great fighter. You don't go from number 1 on some people's list to off the list. 9 slots down, no, you're still there.
I'm just glad she doesn't have Estrada on the list, Moroccan.
Oh, stop it! Stop. I knew you was thinking that too.
Listen, she doesn't. She also doesn't have Josh Taylor, who was on, who still is on some people's list. But all of these fighters are great. You have to question, look, I love Shakur Stevenson. I think he is part of the future of boxing, but he's only won 1 world title. He hasn't won a title in a different division yet. So in terms of skill, if we're basing it only on skill, yeah, he should be high on the list. But the pound for pound list should be based on many things: accolades, skills, wins, dominance.
Yeah, but not so many. Yes, you're 100% right. You're 100% right, Ak, but I'm saying skills. It's not just eye test. Skills is who did you use those skills against? Because some people could, right. So he just hasn't had that fight yet. He's trying to get those fights, and now at least he has Jamel Herring, who's a champion. You know what I'm saying? So it's he won a title at featherweight, which was a vacant title against Gonzalez. So he didn't get a chance to show his skills against somebody better, and that's what we're waiting for. And to put him against Gervonta Davis, who been a champ multiple times, and he's one of the most dominant guys in the world, I don't think he should be there.
And to add to that, Barack, for a while people were saying Gervonta isn't really fighting nobody. I think that stigma is gone, in my opinion, at least. Him going up to 140, beating Barrios the way he did, beating Santa Cruz the way he did. He has some good, legitimate wins, and he showed that dominance against those guys. So I'm no longer looking at Gervonta as that guy who hasn't really used that talent against good fighters. Of course, there's still fights we want to see, like the Teofimo, Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fight. Still in all, that being said, the guy has big wins, and that's why we have him on a pound-for-pound list even before seeing this list.
Oh, of course. And I just think he's amazing. I think anybody his size going up to fight somebody as scary as Mario Barrios is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And stopping him at that, he's spectacular. He keeps proving it. Now, guess what? Stevenson keeps proving he's great too. I think it's just a little bit early. I think it's just a little bit early to say that he's on a pound for pound list yet. Let him fight Jamel and let's see how he performs then. And then maybe we can talk. But even still, all of these guys on this list have accomplished, and the guys who I mentioned, Lomachenko and Usyk maybe even, and in a way have accomplished so much more. You know, so it's just a little premature, that's all.
Moving further down the list real quick, Barack, I mean, these two top spots, you know, they can be interchangeable at any time. But check this out. Both of these guys have huge fights ahead of them. You know, so for instance, we all know that Crawford is fighting Porter. If that fight was before Canelo, you would have to move Crawford to the #1 spot. But if Canelo comes and beats Caleb Plant and becomes undisputed at super middleweight, then he has to go, immediately up to the top 2. So I love it when guys are this close in that race for the pound for pound supremacy. You have to have. I still have Canelo at #1. His fight, if I'm not mistaken, would be before Crawford and Porter. So I still got Crawford at #2. Nevertheless, both of these guys are amazing fighters, and who knows a year from now who's going to be on that list. Could be Gervonta Davis, could be Shakur Stevenson. Who the hell, I mean, up in those early spots. It could be Errol Spence Jr. I love the class that we have today, Barack. We've been preaching it for a couple of years. This is an amazing era in the world of boxing.
I always say that this is going to be one of the best eras when we look back 20 years from now. Even though people complain, but people complain in every era, there's never a shortage of haters and people who don't really understand the game.